No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the designer for the Ethereum Foundation. We are working multiple projects. And what I would like to do now is I would like to give an introduction on what is the blockchain, the what is Ethereum, and what we are all trying to do here. So just to have an idea, who here has heard about the blockchain, or who here knows what that is? Okay, so let's start, shall we? So
Sure.
really what I want to talk about is blockchains and how that affect the future of business. Not just like your business, but every business in the world. And I don't mean that in this sense, in a mafia sense, where you've got a nice business here, it would be a shame if something happens there. So instead, I would like you to think of me as this guy. Don't worry, I'm from the internet, and we are big fans of the internet here. Actually, I'm such a big fan of the internet that I think it's literally one of the best things ever created. It's top there with sliced bread and will. And there are many characteristics of the internet that make it very interesting. But I think one of the most interesting is that it's a worldwide, decentralized communication platform. And I would like to focus more on one aspect of it today, which is this decentralized part. So what does it mean to be decentralized? So most of them have probably heard the notion that the internet was created in the 70s, in the height of the Cold War, because the United States wanted to create a computer that would never go offline, even in the case of a nuclear attack. And the reason that the internet kind of fits that bill is that whenever you take any of the servers off, the others, they kind of just create new paths, rearrange themselves, and they go back online. So in order to take off the internet offline, you kind of have to take off every single server on the internet. And you still can always put more servers. But decentralization is actually more like a strategy. So we have decentralization on one side, and we have centralization on the other side. And to be true, there are some advantages of both approaches. So for example, a decentralized network is really resilient. That just means what I said before, that if you take a node out, the others will just take the work there from there, and it will keep online. The decentralized networks, they tend to find always the path of least resistance. They do not defend themselves by being very strong. Instead, they just try to find a way where if you put a roadblock somewhere, it will just find some other path around it. Finally, there's this word that I love, which is anti-fragility, which just means actually that it works a little bit like a immune system. If you keep taking out nodes, fragile nodes, and the other nodes will just keep popping up, what you're doing is that the network kind of develops resistance to that kind of attack. Because what is happening is that when you start taking out nodes, the nodes that are left are those that were able to sustain your particular stack strategy. Finally, it can do all of that because it's redundant. Decentralized network is not very strong because each particular node is very strong or big, but just because they have multiple nodes and they have the same information on many of them. But there are some advantages in the other side for centralization. For example, it's more efficient. If you have to deal with a single person and you just go there to solve the person, you often lose less time. Also, it helps you find consensus where many parties disagree, which is important for conflict resolution. Meaning that if if I want to plant in an area and you want to plant in an area and we are kind of disputing who has the right to plant in that area, we can just fight it over, or we could rely on some centralized government or entity that will tell you who owns which part of the net. So that's one of the reasons that centralization is so useful, because when you don't have a central node that can kind of take care of those conflicts, often what happens is that individual nodes just start fighting unnecessarily about. And there's a great advantage for centralization if you are the central node, which is it can work as a gatekeeper. When all the information, when all decisions have to go through one central node, and that central node has some power to charge for the privilege of doing that. So let's think about some examples of what I mean by that in practice. So for example, blogs. Blogs, of course, are decentralized. And you're going to compare them with the press. And the press used to be very centralized, and the reason, that's interestingly one of the reasons that the press was one of the first victims of the internet, and I would say that one of the hardest victims of the internet, because the press used to think of itself as a gatekeeper. They used to think of themselves as a monopoly on information, where if you wanted news, if you wanted information, you needed to go on the press. And blogs have broken those, blogs and all kinds of websites have kind of broken that monopoly. And today, the press that has resisted is not the one that was trying to keep a monopoly on information, but more the others, the more one that try to be more efficient or take advantage of some other aspect of centralization. So, like having a central reputation or being somewhere you trust. Another example, Napster. We used to think of Napster as one of the first early peer-to-peer file sharing sites. So is it centralized? I would argue that not, it's not. Napster was once taken down because it was a central server. And just in a great example of anti-fragility, after Napster came Kazaa, came Sharada, and came a bunch of things until we got BitTorrent. The reason BitTorrent survived and is known currently as this protocol that is mostly used for piracy, it's not because the protocol itself has a disadvantage that attracts bad people, but the protocol is so resistant that it's the only thing that survived the attacks and attempts of trying to remove it. And what I find ironic in this story is that Napster had a business model. Napster wanted to charge everyone monthly and would allow everyone to listen to any music they wanted at any time, which is currently the same business model of Spotify, of radio, and most of the online streaming services that took over the industry. So I would argue that by trying to take Napster down, the music industry did a very great mistake that took them 10 years to recover. Because what they were not able to take down piracy, they only made piracy stronger and having stronger protocols. They basically created the possibility, the need for a BitTorrent, and they lost one of the great things they lost the opportunity to be the gatekeeper of information, because back there everyone was using Napster. So that's kind of one of the things that you try to fight off technology like that. You can do the opposite sometimes. You can just worsen the problem. For example, email. Email is clearly decentralized. Anyone can set up an email server, and people set up email servers all around. And it should be very hard to spy or to censor an email unless you use Gmail. So most people today don't set up their own email server. Instead, they just use some centralized email service like Gmail, like Hotmail, or something like that. Just because it's more efficient, is the fact that our information is on the same place allows Google and Microsoft to have more intelligence, etc. So those are the advantages of centralization. And of course, there is the disadvantage is that there is a unique point of failure where if a government agency wants to spy on most citizens in the world, they just have to be able to get into Google network, Microsoft network, on a very few number of networks. Another great example that we don't think about it, which is very non-technological, cash. So of course, cash is issued by a central banker. But once you put it on the market, cash is just decentralized. You can stop it. Just go to any Soviet country or North Korea to that matter, or Venezuela, and you see how hard it is for government to crack down on what is called the black market, which is just a characteristic of cash, meaning that if you have cash and you want to give cash to someone, it's very hard for a central party to stop that transaction, so you can create a market. On the other hand, digital money, and by digital money I mean things like Visa, credit card, on your online bank, those are very centralized issues. So when WikiLeaks started to leak information about banks, what they did is that they immediately took to Visa and MasterCard and PayPal and blocked all donations to WikiLeaks, making them powerless for time until Bitcoin came. So how does Bitcoin fit then? So of course, Bitcoin is decentralized, but here's the thing: how does it do that? Because we know that one of the reasons the digital money was centralized was conflict resolution, was the ability to do consensus. So here's the question that I want to ask: how does Bitcoin do it? Okay. So what happened here is that Bitcoin basically took all those characteristics of centralization and it just stole two of them, which is consensus and conflict resolution. Why does that matter? So those were things that only existed with Visa, with MasterCard, with PayPal, consensus and conflict resolution, and that was the reason that for 20 years the internet never had cash money, or something similar to cash money. And the reason is that so far, until 2009, no one was ever able to create in a decentralized network like the internet a way to solve conflicts and create consensus. So I keep saying this word, consensus. What does it mean? So I'm going to give an example. Imagine you have a little town with 4 houses, and each house is going to host a party today. And we have a bunch of people that all of them want to go to a party. But there is not a central node, there is not a central organizer, there is not a single person that can decide where the party is going to be, and those 4 houses are competing for the right to have the party. If everyone just chooses randomly, chances are that they will just spread around in houses and there won't be a party. If you have 2 persons in a bar, 3 persons in a bar, you don't have a party. But if everyone can get together and agree on a single place, then boom, we have a party. It's fun. Everyone is there. So what I mean is that consensus is the ability to make a bunch of equal peers that do not trust each other to come together to an agreement. And a very interesting aspect of it is what is the agreement doesn't matter. It only matters that they all agree on it. So it doesn't matter if the party is on house 1, 2, 3, or 4. It only matters that everyone agrees to go where the majority is going. So why does it matter? Why does consensus, why does anything of what I'm saying has to do with Ethereum or blockchain? So, and why does it matter so much for society as a whole? So, I would argue that corporations and governments, for that matter, exist to quickly form and stabilize complex equilibria. So that's a great phrase from Vitalik Buterin, the creator of Ethereum. And what he means by that is that corporations and governments, they exist to come into a place where there is some chaos and where for a bunch of reasons, for a bunch of game theory reasons, you cannot find an agreement or some sort of equilibrium, and you can find it. And the internet is a great example. The internet is, exactly like we are saying, used to be a decentralized network of equal peers where people wouldn't necessarily trust each other. And well, what ended up happening is that everyone, so the internet is decentralized, yes, just like I say, anyone can set up a server. But in the last 10 years, the internet became not only a place to hold documents or web links and links to that, a bunch of links of that linked documents, but it became a place of application. And what happens is that on each one of those servers, there is a different application with a different code base, and they are keeping the information there in a private database. So what happens is that you have Facebook here with your friends in a corner, you have your Airbnb there with your reputation as a guest, and then you have your credit score in another server. And it's very hard for them to communicate because they use different systems and they don't necessarily use the same APIs, etc. So what happens is that a few nodes get a lot of power. So if you are Facebook, you just get the right to be the central. So if you are Facebook, you just get the right to be the central place where everyone meets and stores their friend information. If you are the bank, you keep your credit score there, and that's very powerful. So what we have on the internet currently today is a system where you go to some company computer and ask them to please log in with your account, with your data, and tell you what is happening with your friend. The only thing that happens in hardware that you can trust, which is your computer, is that information is being displayed to you. And that is a fundamentally broken architecture. That is by Gavin Wood, one of the founders of Ethereum. So where does blockchain come in? So blockchain is that. Blockchain is a decentralized network that was able to reach consensus. Okay? And which consensus is that? In the case of Bitcoin, the consensus is simply how many Bitcoins everyone has. But okay, why does that matter? What is a Bitcoin? What is the value? How many Bitcoins everyone? It doesn't matter actually. Don't focus on that. Just like it didn't matter where the party would be hosted, it didn't matter that everyone agreed that the party would be hosted somewhere. In Bitcoin's case, it doesn't really matter how many Bitcoins everyone has or what is the value of what does Bitcoin even mean. What it matters is that everyone agrees that how many everyone else has. Why? There's a simple reason for that. If anyone agrees that this particular node here has 9, and if that node tells everyone, and everyone agrees that they heard it, Tim say that he's going to transfer a Bitcoin somewhere else, then what it will happen is that node everyone can now agree that the new reality is that particular node has 8 Bitcoins and that other one has 1. So that's kind of the point of this, is that because everyone can agree on something, you can see a new reality, you can see a new agreement. And the way Bitcoin does it, and the way blockchain does it, is that it has a real cost behind it. They have software that is is just running particularly for this. And to offset that real cost, sometimes someone who's running the software will get a few extra Bitcoins. And again, it solves two problems. First, it solves the issue on where those Bitcoins come from, and solves the problem of security on how do you reward people for running that very expensive software. It is an expensive software not because you have to download it or pay someone to do it. It's expensive because you have to spend energy, and sometimes you have to buy very fancy computer and equipment in order to be able to run it. And that's kind of it. And what is the value of that? The value is that if you want to transmit value in a decentralized network, you can using Bitcoin. And that is kind of the interesting part of it. But what I find a sort of a waste is that Bitcoin is, by some measures, probably one of the greatest supercomputer ever built. By some measures, it's more powerful than the top 100 other supercomputers. And all it does, it makes arithmetic decisions, where you get 9 here, you add 1, you remove it. So that's pure arithmetic. It is kind of a waste to imagine that you just getting 2 minus 1 and 1 plus 1 equals 2. That's the only calculation you're doing, the world's greatest supercomputer. That is kind of silly. So that's where Ethereum comes in. So what we do in Ethereum is that instead of you having, as I said before, every node running their different code base, what we did is we break the server model. We break every server in tiny, tiny little pieces, and then grab them together again into a new node. And each node contains all the information needed to reach consensus. And each node has the code for everyone else's node, meaning that if you are running a program in the blockchain, in the Ethereum blockchain, if you create a software in the Ethereum blockchain, every node will have a copy of that software. Every node will have the information for that software. And they will be able, so if you take out one node, it doesn't matter because the others will take the slack. Meaning that if you build a software on Ethereum, it becomes unstoppable in a sense. It becomes impossible to commit fraud, to change it, to do anything that that software becomes permanent, part of the permanent record, and you keep being permanent, you keep being live. How kind of we do that? So computation is a scarce resource. So what we do is that we just create a token. Unlike Bitcoin, the token is not used for transfer of value, but it's just more like an arcade coin that we used to use on those old arcades, where you buy when you want to play an arcade, you just buy the coin from someone, then you put it on the machine, it runs for a very specific amount of time, and then after you are done with it, the owner of the machine will keep the token. So what can you build with this crazy blockchain? So I'm going to give you some real examples of real companies building things like it. So for example, the physical assets on the blockchain. Maker is one of them. Digix is a company from Singapore, I believe, doing that. And Digix is doing real gold on the blockchain. What they do is that they work sort of a Uber for gold, where if you have gold, they have multiple persons that hold gold in many banks, and they provide a service to Digix, where Digix issues tokens whose value is tied to a single gram of gold, meaning that you can use all the advantages of the blockchain. You can keep a backup of it on a disk, on a USB file. You can send it instantly all across the world, but with gold. You can pay someone with 2 grams of gold. Of course, not everyone is a fan of gold. Some people like dollars, some people like euros, some people like yen. A Maker is doing the same thing for dollars and for just currencies, national currencies. They are creating a token in the Ethereum blockchain that you can transmit anywhere in the world instantly, but it's the value is tied to the dollar or the euro or something else like that. Another great example, which is not directly a market, is Augur and Gnosis. They are both trying to do prediction markets. They are trying to do a way to get better forecast of the future. And the way they are doing that is that they allow you to do anonymous forecasting, and you are paid according to how well you were able to predict the future. So you put money where your mouth is. So if you believe that the next president of the United States will be Hillary Clinton, you have to put money on it. And if you're right, you will get the money of everyone else who was wrong. So it is kind of a betting system, but it's not a bet. Actually, they use the betting mechanism, but they use a very interesting math, and the result is that you have a very accurate forecast of the possibilities of the future, including all information that the market currently has. And the reason that they are doing that on the blockchain is mostly because many prediction markets have been created before, and they were always usually very specific, very effective, but they would usually be taken down as soon as they were starting to make private information public, and some powerful people didn't like that. So for example, it's very common that you can set up if you set up a prediction market on your company to decide if a project is going to be delayed or not, if it's going to be late or shipped on time, if you ask the manager, they will be always tell you that the project is going to be shipped on time. And if you ask just any employee to make a bet on it, they are usually going to give you a much better prediction. The problem is that the managers don't like when there are anonymous employees telling the president that your project is late, even when it is. Another thing is democracy, what they call the democracy of things, which is a step after Internet of Things. And that's a word that IBM created. IBM and Samsung, they did a project using Ethereum, and now there is a company called Lockheed that's building on the same idea. And what is a democracy of things is that, so one of the things people think about the democracy of things is that every Internet of Things is every single thing out there, your coffee shop, your coffee maker, your lock, your car, you're all connected to the internet, and they all talk to each other. But they do not take decisions by themselves, and more importantly, they do not have the right to pay, to buy anything. So Uber, for example, Uber is a lot of people like Uber because it's breaking the monopoly on cabs. But here's the thing, Uber doesn't want to break the monopoly on cabs. Uber wants to be your private vehicle. They want to be cheaper for you to use an Uber than to own a car, which could be great for the environment. It can also take us into a crazy future where 90% of the cars on the streets in the entire world are controlled by Google, Uber, Facebook, Apple, and a half dozen of other companies. I don't know about you, but I think that's a very scary future, because it means that if Apple, Google, and Facebook could get together, they could literally stop a whole country on its tracks. I think that's scary. Just now imagine another world. Imagine that instead of you have a self-driving car that is owned by Google, and that imagine a self-driving car is owned by itself. It's not that when you pay the self-driving car, it goes through a bank and through a credit card system, and then it goes all the way to Uber, and then Uber controls a web server, and that web server connects back to the car and tells them that you rented it. No, instead, imagine if each car had a wallet of their own. And each car had autonomy to make decisions on how much they are going to charge, where they are going to do, and what they charge for services of taking them around. And when what they do with this money is that they use the money to make repairs, to recharge themselves, and finally they use the profit, the savings, to just buy another car and multiply themselves like a family or like a organic creature. I find that very fascinating. And Rocket is doing that, starting with locks and small computers. And they are doing that by and they're doing all of that in a virtual company. And I'm gonna tell you how to do that. And another thing you can do is that you can just create your own cryptocurrency in Ethereum. And you can create your own autonomous organization. What does that mean? So for example, Zlochit, as I say, is doing all these democracy of things, but they are not doing that with a virtual company, they are doing it with a virtual company. And I don't mean by digital company, a company that is registered in Delaware and has a bank account in the Cayman Islands. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a digital company that only exists on the blockchain. And they are financing themselves by issuing cryptocurrencies that only exist on the blockchain, which are bought by Ether, which is a digital currency. So it's a whole ecosystem inside the blockchain. And I think that's amazing. And how can you build that? How complicated is that? Just take, for example, the token contract, the cryptocurrency contract. In the simplest form, a token contract is really you can create a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Ethereum with something like 10 lines of code if you want it. I'm not going to study all the code, but I want to just focus on two main areas here, which is when you create, how this code works is that whenever you create the token, it just creates a supply of 10,000 tokens or something like that. And then when you want to send coins, it just checks if you have enough balance. And if you have enough balance, it then just subtracts from yours and adds to the guy who is receiving. And that's it. That's a cryptocurrency. That's a currency, right? If I have $10 and I give them, now I give them to you, now I have $0 and you have 10. It's just very simple math. So let me give you an example here. Okay, so are you all with me until so far? So I'm gonna use a very simple example so this is our site where you can just on our main site we have a bunch of information on how to create your own contract. Okay, so I'm gonna create my own cryptocurrency, and this is the wallet. So the Ethereum wallet is a very simple software where you can just use it to store your own Ether, and you can, of course, you can check to see how much you have here. And more important than that, what you can do is that you can use it to deploy a smart contract. And you don't need to be a programmer to do that. I'm going to show you how simple is that. You can just go to our website and get, like, for example, here's the code for a cryptocurrency, okay? Don't even take a look at the code. You can just see the code here. What it does is that it analyzes the token and it thinks and it finds out, okay, that this is a token contract. And then all you have to do is you have to fill up the parameters. So for example, let's say that I want to create 100 tokens, okay? I'm gonna call them Finolab shares. It doesn't have any decimal units, and I'm gonna use a percent symbol. So I'm gonna just create a token here. I just type my password. So as you can see, I didn't even touch a line of the code. And what it's going to do now is going to try to create a contract. while the token is being created, I'm going to create another project, which is I'm going to create an autonomous organization. And again, I just go to the main website and you get the code there, or you can take the code wherever you want it. So this is a code for a stakeholder association. And what that particular code does is that it creates a DAO, right? It's a decentralized organization that only lives on the blockchain and can hold your money. So again, what the wallet does, it analyzes the code that you just created and it says, okay, so you have an association here. And you can use it to, and all you need now is that you just need to give some parameters. So one of the parameters that you need right here is that you need to have the cryptocurrency contract. So usually it takes about 30 seconds to create a contract. Oh, there you have it. So it created a little token for me, okay? And you can, this is the token. You can like see a page where it administers the token. And and you can see that Bob here has 100% of the shares of that particular token. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going back to the organization. Again, so I created a cryptocurrency here. So I created a very simple cryptocurrency and I hold 100% of it. So I'm going to create another smart contract very quickly, where what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use that cryptocurrency as if it were voting rights or voting shares. So what it does, it again analyzes how the code and tells me, okay, you are trying to create an association. So just tell me what are the shares that you're using. So this is the token that I just created, the Finolab share. And you can just leave all those other parameters empty for now. You type password. Now it is creating the other contract. Meanwhile, I'm going to show you how the token works. So Bob here has 100% of the shares. Alice has none. So I can send Alice, if I want, 50 shares very simply, because the wallet recognizes I have this new token, and now I can simply send it around. I just click send, type my password, because you have to be secure, you always have to type your password. And there you got it. In a few moments, the Alice will have 50% of the shares, and Bob will have 50% of the shares, and now suddenly they own this thing. And what can this thing do? Now we're going to use that, okay? So here is the association I just created, and it's just, let me call that the Finolab smart contract. Okay, that's the name of the thing we have here. So it creates a unique icon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send $500. I'm going to send $200. Let's say $100 to Finolab. That is about 25 liters, 26 liters, so it's not much. So I'm just going to send $100 to Finolab. And now that means that even though I created Finolab, Finolab will have $100, and Finolab will control that $100. And there won't be any way where anyone else can use that $100 unless they agree, they go through what the contract does. How does this contract work? So it is as you can see, it just got $100. Let me see that in liters. So it has now 26 liters. And what I'm going to do, I am going to do a new proposal. So let's say I want to spend that liters. I want to send 10 liters, send 10 liters to Alice. I'm going to execute it. And what I'm doing here is that I'm just putting a proposal up, right? So the only way that money is blocked here. The only way that this money can get out of here is if I create a proposal and which is transferred on the blockchain and that everyone else votes on that particular proposal. So we have to wait until it's confirmed. You can see that every time I do a transaction, it kind of you can see like a progress bar where it waits until enough other nodes saw the transaction and confirmed and verified it. So that's why you have to wait. Usually it's about 15 seconds, 17 seconds on the mainnet, on the main Ethereum network. It takes longer here because I'm on the test net, so it's a lower network. There are less people using it. I'm probably the only one using it right now. So as you can see, while I was talking, the latest transaction was sent, meaning that now you can see the proposals. So here's the thing: we have a smart contract. It holds $100, right? And now the only way that money can be taken out of it is that someone votes on a proposal, and the proposals are transparent and anyone can see them on the blockchain. But in order to vote on the proposals, you can only vote on them if you have the shares that we just created. Remember? So Bob has 50% of the shares, Alex has 50% of the shares. So I'm gonna do that. So again, this is the wallet just analyzes the contract and realizes you can do 4 or 5 things here. And one of them is execute the proposal that I just did, and the other one is vote. How do you vote? Very simple. I just go here and say, I want to vote the proposal number 0, which is this proposal here. You can see proposal number 0 is send Bob, actually, send money to Bob. And here's a great example. So it says that it's sending to Alex. If anyone can see that what it's doing is that it's sending 10 ethers to Bob, actually, which is a great way to show that you cannot lie to it. It's going to do exactly what it's doing here, not what it tells it's going to do. So I'm going to execute the vote. So Bob is going to vote on the proposal. Alice is going to vote on the same proposal. And while we are waiting, we can always create other proposals. For example, Alice, here, this is Alice's address. We could, in theory, just do a secondary proposal where we send your proposal, where we send to Alice another 15 ethers, send 15 ethers for real, and we can execute it. And I just have to wait here. And you can add as many proposals as you want. And the nice thing about it is that it's going to be visible only on the block. It's going to be transparent on the blockchain. So it's like a government, but a completely transparent government. Okay, the latest things have been. You can see that the votes have been computed here. So the deadline to vote has passed. So we can already execute it. So execute proposal. So what I do now is that I just click execute proposal, I put the number of the proposal I want to execute, I just press execute here. I type my password, and I wait. So as you can see here, this contract has 26 ethers, and Bob has 140, something like that. So as soon as this particular proposal is voted and is executed, what is going to happen if you focus on this area is that the money will count the votes, see if it's passed, if it has enough votes, and if, oh, you saw it? We have 16 ethers now. What does that represent? So $40. Right now, it just moved $40 along. Now, think about that for a minute. Just imagine if your government worked like that. Just imagine if all the money in the government was actually locked in a very smart contract. somewhere that you could never taken out, could never spend a single penny of the money unless it was voted upon by the people who had the right to vote. And that vote was transparent, that vote was unbreakable, and that vote would happen automatically on the blockchain. So this is what this particular thing does. It's that you create something that it's unbreakable, it's unhackable, and it actually can hold real money. So going back to the presentation. So this is my demo. So what I did here is I created a token and I used that token to create a decentralized organization, right? And that decentralized organization can be used then to control anything else. It can be used, I use it to send ethers around, but I could do it, I could use it to control another contract. I could use it to control another token, for example. And the point is that every single contract, they talk to each other and they interact with each other. And the more contracts there are, the more the network becomes useful. So where are we right now, right? We are at phase 0 of Ethereum. We launched phase 0, which we call Frontier, in July last year. So the network is going alive for 8 months or so. And what it does is that it's right now it's a tool for its developers. It's a place for developers, right? And very, very soon we'll pass on to phase 1, which is Homestead, which is where we start having all these easier tools, like I just saw the wallet is in beta, you get out of beta so other people can test it around, and anyone will be able to use it. What comes after that, so Homestead is coming very, very soon. So what comes after that is that we are going to so right now what the wallet does is that just tries to create a smart contract interface for your contract, which kind of can be useful but we want to do more. So the next phase is we are building a browser that can hold HTML interfaces for contracts. So creating a company in Ethereum that can hold real life money should be as easy as creating a Facebook group because the interface will be the same. And then phase 3, Serenity, comes after that, where we focus really on scalability, and there are some great solutions for scalability. So this is what Ethereum does, okay? It's a platform so we can build apps for the blockchain. It's a worldwide decentralized server. It's an unbreakable smart contract that cannot be censored, cannot be meddled by third parties. So you can use it to build literally unstoppable applications that will always run without risk of third-party interference or censorship. So you can learn more about it at ethereum.org. We are going to update the site very, very soon. And you can always send me an email to Alex Van de Sande at ethereum.com. And that's it. That's Ethereum for you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. That was a very nice, very wonderful presentation for us. Very easy to understand with the demonstrations. Okay.
So do you have questions?
Okay. I'll ask the questions. Okay, anyone have any questions?
Just entry-level question.
Okay, please join it. Come on.
Just
please speak this pieces.
Hi, I just started to study about blockchain. I took lecture of Coursera and I read book published by O'Reilly blockchain. And sorry. Sorry for that. So no problem. If I
what is the question?
Okay. Sorry. And just And my first question is, now I'm studying Python, some programming language, and some
Python.
Yes, and some blockchain script. Do we have to study this kind of language to use this system? This makes sense?
So So Ethereum has multiple languages, right? Well, the language that Ethereum really speaks is a machine language interface in a virtual machine, so it's EVM. So it's just like a compiled version. And there are many people that have created a lot of different languages that compile into Ethereum languages. So for example, all the contracts that I've been showing to you, they work in Solidity. Solidity is based on JavaScript. It's very simple.
JavaScript, I see.
One of the very other popular languages is called Serpent, and was built with Python in mind. Was built by the creator of Ethereum, Vitalik, and that's his favorite language. It's very similar to Python. And there are other languages similar to C and similar to Go, etc. But I think the main languages that people use to develop smart contracts is Solidity and Python. And Python and Serpent.
I see. And two more questions. Can I ask two more questions?
Yeah, sure.
Who is a miner of Ethereum? That's my next question. And who is a miner? Sorry, I could not understand. And third question is, you talked about some prediction of to use Ethereum about Genesis. Oh yeah. Genesis and one more. Augur. What's that? Okay. Now many AI engineer talked about such a prediction. Machine learning engineer talked about prediction, but what is the great difference between machine learning prediction and this Ethereum prediction? That's my second question. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So here's first of all, mining. Okay, so mining. I don't like to explain. To be honest, I don't like to explain mining for two reasons. One of them is I'm not very technical, and I tend to think that trying to understand mining is not a very good way to try to understand the blockchain. It's like trying to understand a car by looking into the chemical reaction of petroleum inside a combustion engine, okay? You can understand a car by understanding the chemical reaction of petroleum, but in the end, I think it's better if you have a larger idea of what a car is trying to do. So what happens is very simple, right? So in Ethereum, we have all those, so in the blockchain, you have every single node validating transactions, right? You have every node has information of all the transactions, and it uses that to validate transactions. And Ethereum is very similar, but in Ethereum, every code, so in Ethereum, every code has to own everyone else's code. So not only that's expensive because you have to have a large hard drive with lots of gigabytes. It's also something that is expensive because it costs real energy to run it. Because one of the algorithms behind it, one of the magic behind it, is that in order to prevent you creating a bunch of nodes that can vote on what is the new reality, it's tied to a specific real energy cost. And how do you make people volunteer? So we don't control the network, right? The foundation doesn't have all those servers flying somewhere. We can only ask people to put up nodes if they want to. So what those nodes are doing is that they are validating the transaction. And a way to subsidize those nodes' existence and a way to reward them for their work is to pay them in the virtual currency that we use currently. So that's what Bitcoin does, which is I think is a very smart idea, and that's what we do. We use the same model. It's a very smart idea because it's the value of the token is usually tied to the value of the network as a whole, which is usually tied to the costs of running the network. So by rewarding miners, it is a way for them to, there's always a reason for someone to be running the network, right? So that was the first question.
Okay, and the all node being you are talking about the okay, and okay, in the case of Bitcoin, such a miner must be owner of Bitcoin. But in the case of Ethereum, also such a miner is a user of Ethereum, right? Does it make sense? Sorry.
So in Bitcoin, you don't need to be an owner of Bitcoin to be a miner of Bitcoin.
Okay.
So those are different things. It's kind of by being a miner, you get Bitcoins and you become an owner. So if you're a miner, you're probably an owner. But if you're an owner, you're probably not a miner. So you can see how they're different, right?
Okay,
so,
that's my homework. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So
I see.
in Ethereum, miners are just people who have very good machines that are helping setting up the network. So imagine if Ethereum is this, we talk about Ethereum like a worldwide decentralized server, right? So you can run a website currently. You don't need to have your own, like 20 years ago, if you wanted to run a website, you needed to run your own worldwide web servers, right? Now you don't need to do that. You can just pay Amazon to host a website for you. So imagine that Amazon, so we don't have specific servers in Ethereum. So there are there are servers all around the world. They are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So a miner is like Amazon. You pay Amazon to host your website. And in Ethereum, you pay, when you want to upload a contract, you have to pay the miner to upload that contract. So the cost of uploading a contract is not decided by us, or the foundation, or by anyone. It's a market dynamic, because the amount of people wanting to upload contracts and the amount of people who are running miners who are loading contracts up.
I see. Maybe some bank now they employ this smart contract. Maybe this kind of private chain, same kind of technology. Which bank employ you use for smart private chain? Sorry, it is my homework. I'm so sorry. No. I just say
so
some now.
You're talking about private chain.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. This is about private chain is about smart contract. Does it make sense?
Yeah. So you can Ethereum. In Ethereum, there is a main network that has like a lot of where people use your money. And I just showed you creating a contract on the test network. But you can kind of create any network you want. You can create multiple copies of the network, and you can make a network where you are the only miner, and you can create your private network for your bank.
Okay, that's my homework. So thank you. And sorry, final question about
Any questions?
yeah, about some what is the great difference between final question is about prediction. What is the great difference between machine learning prediction and Ethereum prediction? Is final question.
So between which prediction?
This Augur and Glosys, they provide prediction service, and what's the great difference between the AI prediction, machine learning prediction?
Okay, so what Augur and Knowledge does, they build a prediction market, okay? And a prediction market is mostly, have you heard the expression, put your money where your mouth is? Have you heard that expression? So there's a very popular American expression that says, put your money where your mouth is. So it means that sometimes you're saying, oh, I think, for example, your team, you can say, look, I think my team is the best, my team is always going to win, my team is going to be the very good champion. And then someone tells them, look, put your money where your mouth is. If you believe your team is going to win, put $10 down, and we'll make a bet that if your team wins, you get my $10, right? And often that phrase is used because most people don't like to do that. Most people don't like to put money on their predictions. They like to say something about the world, but they don't want really to be accountable for. So that's a very common thing. So I go, oh, what is going to happen? I think Hillary Clinton is going to be president. I think Bernie Sanders is going to be president. I think Trump is going to be president. It's very fun to make a prediction like that based on my idea. But once you ask someone, look, I want you to put money down on it. it changes kind of the market. So what a prediction market does is that they issue a bunch of shares, and you can buy shares. So what happens is that they issue a share for Bernie Sanders, a share for Hillary Clinton, a share for Trump, a share for Bush. If you buy a Hillary Clinton share, and Hillary Clinton is the president, then you get, let's say, $1. Okay? If you buy a Hillary Clinton share, and Hillary Clinton is not the president, then you get $0. So that's how it works with a prediction market. So how much would you pay for a Hillary Clinton share, right? Why would you pay for a Hillary Clinton share? So that's the whole point. Are you going to, so the idea is that you should pay for a Hillary Clinton share the proportion of the possibility that you think it's worth it. So if you think that, if you see, look, I think Hillary Clinton has a 50-50 chance of being the president of the United States. So it makes sense for you to buy it at 50 cents on the dollar, right? Because that's kind of 50-50. So if you see that the Hillary share is trading at 10 cents, it makes sense for you to buy it. If it's trading at 90 cents, it makes sense for you to buy it, for you to sell it. So that's kind of how it works. If the price of the share is lower than what you believe it is, then it makes sense for you to buy or to sell it, and then the price will fluctuate until it kind of reaches the market. And the nice part of it is, suppose that the Hillary Clinton share is going on at 50 cents, right? But you know something about Hillary Clinton that nobody else knows. Suppose that you know about a scandal on the political, that will change everything, that will make, no one will want to vote on Hillary Clinton after that. You could go to Augur and anonymously buy a lot of Hillary Clinton shares, let's say that are trading for 50 cents. And then the next day, the scandal breaks out, and nobody thinks that her chances of being president dropped to 10%, and now you just bought something. You bought something for a price. Let's say you bought something for 50 cents, and then now you can sell it for 90 cents, and you just made a profit by having that information that nobody else had. But the nice thing is that the moment you bought a bunch of shares before, the price kind of went up. So now let's suppose that you don't know anything about the election. Okay, so Hillary Clinton is trading at 50%, and then suddenly it drops down to 10%. Now there's no news, there's no new scandal, there's nothing new that happened, but then suddenly someone made a very big bet that is going down. So you can probably imagine that someone knows something that you don't about Hillary Clinton, and that is a way where that information becomes public. So that's why Augur and Gnosis are so fantastic. They are a way to take private information and to make it public to everyone to know. So you can make decisions. So if you want to invest, let's say you want to invest in the United States right now, you want to open a company, but if Bernie Sanders is the president next year, you might not do that. You can just take a look at Gnosis and look, what is the chance of that happening? It's 10%, 50%, 90%, and then you make decisions based on that.
I see. Is it work? Is it real work? It sounds. It's okay, but yeah, it's work. Really, work
Does it work?
In financial market to predict something.
Yeah, prediction markets really work. They have been tried before.
I see.
And this is the first time someone is going to is building a decentralized prediction market.
I see.
There were some prediction markets before, but they are easily closed down because people don't like secrets leaking out to the public.
I see. Thank you very much. That's my homework also. Thank you for your patience.
No problem. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, please. Come up.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. My question is pretty much easy. So the question is like, I can understand like how Ethereum is very good, but I don't know like a ways of good market to jump into. as a start. You know what I mean? You know.
If you, are you asking if it's a good opportunity to learn about development skills
not
and etc.?
Okay. For example, voting
So-
system, like I can understand like concept. Okay, but you know, if I want to start in real market or real world, where is a good market to jump into? Do you have any personal?
Are you asking about the price? Are you asking about if the price is going up or down?
Not price, like you know, it's a good like concept, right? But
Yeah,
it's,
so-
it's very hard like to start in real world. Do you understand?
What do you mean to start? Like to
Start
develop?
means like okay, please use okay this like a voting system from now or something like this.
Yeah, so of course, the tools are not very easy right now. So like I said before, so if you take a look what we have like 4 phases, right? And we are right here. We are at phase 0 where it's mostly about developer, right? The tools that we have right now used to be really just develop. A few months ago, we didn't even have that nice wallet that I can show you. The first time I did this demo, I did all in the command line code. So it was pretty much a development. But right now we are going to the next phase, which is Homestead, where we have some better tools. They are kind of geeky, they are not very easy to use, but I mean, they're not like for everyone, but you can be, if you're not a developer, you can use them, and you can use exactly like this, right? You can just click yes to vote, if you just know what you're doing, or if someone tells you, you'll be able to do it. What we want is that in every phase, we want to make the tools easier and easier and easier to use and more broader audience. So phase 2, on the next phase after Homestead is where we are going to release a way that you can use Ethereum as simply as we will release a browser. So Ethereum should be as simple to use as Facebook is or as Twitter is. And at some point we are going to release an iPad app and an Android app. And those things will get easier, right? The network exists for 8 months now. We started developing it in 2014, really. So it's everything is very new. So the tools are kind of complicated, but they are going to get better. And I would say that if you want to develop an application, if you want to find a way where they can be useful for you, that is right now is a great time, the right time, because it's kind of the sweet spot where the tools are kind of easy to work and build stuff with, but it's not so popular that it's kind of too late for you to do something. So I would say it's always better if you are afraid, oh, how is this going to affect my business? Is this something that I should build something on? It's a lot better if you use the opportunity right now before everyone else is doing it, right? You see my point.
Or do you have any like a personal idea? Which you
Idea?
Yeah, you want to build up. I mean like okay, if you want to make so what you are saying is Ethereum is kind of let's say like library or I don't know, like an iPhone, let's say iPhone. And then what you are saying is sounds like please make something because we make a great tool.
Exactly.
Right.
We are an application platform.
Yeah. So
what I'm doing here is that I want to share this information because I want people to build applications. We have a lot of people that are building applications, and I want more of them, and I want to help everyone who wants to build something on Ethereum.
Yeah. So my question is, do you have any kind of personal idea which you want to build out on Ethereum? This is just personal question.
There are a lot of great ideas that can be built in Ethereum. I'm very excited about things like smart property or decentralized organizations that build things on the blockchain. There are people doing markets. There are people doing Kickstarter. There are people doing Uber Ethereum. So there are a lot of great things that, you can just sit around and talk about. There are people who are about creating games in Ethereum. There is an interesting project where they are wanting you to keep your virtual junk. Like you could get a game item, put it on Ethereum, and sell it to other people. And there are people who are creating games themselves on Ethereum, where if you have, like, let's say an RPG, and if you kill a monster and get gold or get a new sword, that sword exists on blockchain. So it's kind of, no one else can, like, the rules of the sword creation are on the blockchain. So that's the interesting part of it.
Okay, I got it.
So yes, there are tons of things. Just think about this. What if you could build a website or a software or an application that would play, like, that would live forever and that could transfer real money? Just open your iPhone or think about your own software and apps that there are. And imagine that if they could transfer property, imagine if you could buy something via WhatsApp. Imagine that if you could own a Twitter address and put it to auction. Imagine if you could do micro lending via Facebook. So that's kind of the idea we're talking here.
I see. I got it. Okay. Thanks so much.
Okay.
I hope we do something cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of ideas, but I have to think more.
Look, we have many communities like.
Okay, Alex, could you have the name the phase 2 or phase 3? I can't read the screens.
No. Yeah, the phase. Phase 2 is Metropolis, and phase 3 is Serenity.
Serenity. And when we release and expect it?
So Homestead is very, very soon.
Okay.
Probably in the next weeks.
Phase 2.
Phase 2 will probably be something like 6 months or a semester after that, somewhere this year. And phase 3 is so phase 2 is sometime late this year, and phase 3 is somewhere next year. And just speaking out of ideas, we have some great communities on Reddit. So Reddit, Ethereum. There is a Stack Exchange. We have some places where you can there are a lot of people that just want to exchange ideas and tell things with each other. So if you want to develop something and you are out of ideas, you can just go to one of those places and you'll find other people that will love to work with you and share their ideas.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, anything else? Questions? Yes. Come up.
Good morning.
Hello.
I have more nut and bolty type of question. In your example, you're holding Ethereum after your Alice has cashed in some real money, some fiat money. In order to avoid the volatility of Ether, can Ethereum hold Bitcoin and control Bitcoin just as easily as Ethereum?
Okay, so just one example here is that what you're talking about is that right here you can see that Alice has 100 meters and she received a few bits from there. And what I did is I just switched it and showed it how much that is in the dollar. So she's not actually holding fiat currency, just like
I understand that, and Ether is more volatile than Bitcoin. So can Ethereum hold and control Bitcoin just as easily instead?
So here's the thing. We are doing a lot to provide tools for people to create their own tokens in Ethereum, right? So first part is the token. Anyone can create a token in Ethereum. There are a lot of people creating tokens and trying to back up that value somewhere. So for example, I was talking about yes, so here we are. So MakerDAO and Digix are two great examples of how to avoid volatility using Ethereum. So there are many approaches. So Digix is using one approach, which is ties their token to a real life asset. So whenever you buy, let's say, 25 grams of gold in DGX and you have a 25 grams of tokens of DGX in your wallet, what you actually have is that there is someone somewhere with 25 grams of gold in some sort of safe in Singapore, and you can actually see all the documentation online. They do a lot of work to prove the documentation and put it in multiple banks. So that's the way DGX is doing. Is that whenever you hold a token, there is a way for you to transparently check that there is a real world counterpart.
Is there a dollar token?
So Maker is doing a dollar token, but Maker is doing a different approach. So instead of whenever you buy a dollar from Maker, there is a bank somewhere holding the dollar. So there are some companies that are trying to do that, where you buy a dollar token and it's backed by some bank somewhere. Maker is doing a more interesting thing in my view, which is what they are doing is that they are doing they are getting people together. They're using market dynamics where they get some people that believe that Ether price is going up, others are going down, and you can hedge your bets, and in the end, you can kind of buy a token that stays with a value of always $1. So mostly, if you're afraid of volatility, you can always buy a maker token from them, and that value will stay with the dollar. And if you want to bet on the volatility, you can buy another counterparty token, where if the price goes up, you get more money out of it, and if the price goes down, you lose. So they're doing some kind of market game. I don't know all the details, but they are doing a market game where the end result is that if you want volatility, you can bet on it and you can multiply your gains. But if you want to avoid volatility, you can buy a token that the market will kind of guarantee that always we will have another fixed amount. And then there's BTC Relay. That's a third approach that I think it's very interesting. So BTC Relay, it's a technology that what they are trying to do is that they are trying to literally build a bridge between Ethereum and the Bitcoin blockchain. What they do is that they are basically building a light client of Bitcoin in Ethereum smart contracts, which is a crazy technology, but I think kind of works. So the idea is that you can prove in an Ethereum contract that a given Bitcoin transaction took place. So what happens is that you could in theory move Bitcoins to a Bitcoin contract, and that contract would be locked and would only be unlocked if an Ethereum contract says so. And what happens is that you move Bitcoins into a contract, you get a proof that you moved there, you put it on the Ethereum smart contract, and it creates you a token for Bitcoin. And then you can keep it on Ethereum, you can use it for other smart contracts, you can keep it on your wallet. At some point, if you want to have a Bitcoin out of it, you can just activate a function on the BTC Relay side. It will generate you a proof. You take the proof out, and you use that proof some way in Bitcoin software, and that will guarantee you that it will burn the Bitcoin on the Ethereum side and free the Bitcoin on the Bitcoin side, so you can actually have that Bitcoin held. So they are still building it. I'm not sure how far is it. So another currency that is doing that is Dogecoin. Dogecoin did something very interesting, in fact, that they created, we helped them set up a DAO for a bounty for creating the Dogecoin Relay contract. So there's something like $20,000 there for the developer. The developer who is able to build a true token between Dogecoin and Ethereum can win up to $20,000, which were donated by the community. So that is a great way where Ethereum is helping build that gap. So it is possible. People are doing technical solutions for that. They are not completely live yet. Some of them might require a change in the other software. Some of them might not. So that's the current status of the BTC Relay.
Would you recommend using BTC Relay now or waiting until the next version where Bitcoin might be integrated more seamlessly into Ethereum?
So I don't think you can use BTC Relay now because they are in beta phase. They haven't launched yet. It's my understanding that on the first phase, what they are going to do is that they are just going to help you prove the transaction took place. And they are just helping you buy and sell Ether using trustlessly using Bitcoin, where you can just buy Bitcoin and trade with other people, right? So right now, I think the first phase of that is going to do that. I think that the next step where I explain to you where you can actually lock into a contract, it might, I'm not sure how they're going to do it. I know that Dogecoin is doing the automatic locking into contract. By actually improving the Dogecoin, they are going to add an opcode where you can actually do the whole thing trustlessly. I don't know if Bitcoin is going to require an upgrade, and you know how hard it is to do anything that requires an upgrade in the Bitcoin platform, especially if it requires some sort of fork. So I think that in the beginning, BTC Relay will probably depend on a little bit of trust. There will be a market. There will be a decentralized market where you can exchange one for the other or something like that. And I bet that people will create many ways that you can do that. But I would just say keep an eye and see how the solutions are created, because they are not like that.
Okay, another question. How would you have a contract expire after X number of days? I heard that there is a problem with the time type. It's difficult to measure time.
Actually, no, it's not at all hard to measure time. So for example, right in this Finolab contract that I just created, we have a thing called the debating period in minutes, which is 0 right now, just because I wanted, but it is, can you see that here, can you read it, that it says voting deadline 2 minutes ago?
Yes.
So the idea is that whenever you create a proposal, you can set a minimum amount of time that it requires to before, where people cannot execute it, that they have to vote against or for it. And you can put it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 40 minutes. And it works very well. Actually, one of the best things of the blockchain is that it works as a decentralized time server, where everyone kind of has their own clock synced up. So doing things with time in Ethereum is very easy. You may be off by a few seconds here or so it's not like super precise, but if something, say, if you're using...
I'm concerned with the order of number of days.
No, it's very easy. If you want to do something that only happens after 10 days, it's only going to happen after 10 days.
Or you can date check.
Yeah, you can date check. You can check. It's very, all you have to do is something like check if current time is larger than now time, and that's it. It's very easy to do.
Okay, and finally, can you explain what is gas? And is it equally volatile? Is it tied exactly to Ether, or does it have its own market?
So that is a great question. So Ether, as you say, is very volatile. The price of Ether goes up and down. And we don't want that if the price of Ether goes up, then the contracts become very expensive. So that would be the problem. So the solution is that there is a secondary market called gas, where all transactions have fixed costs. So for example, let's take a look here. So to create the Finolab contract, I had to spend something like I had to spend 0.05 Ethers, right? And I paid 0.05 Ether per million gas. So mostly I had to create I had to pay about 1 million gas the cost of this contract is about 1,000,000 gas, which is another unit, which is fixed. So the cost of doing this contract will always be 1,000,000, which is just a unit based on how much it costs to run all the opcodes necessary and the amount of bytes that you use. So that's fixed. And then when you put up the contract up, you decide how much you want to pay for the gas. So when I put that contract up, I told the network, look, I want to pay 0.05 liter for each 1,000,000 gas that I use. And I just need to wait to see if any miners accept it. And that's just a demand market. I don't expect that market to be very volatile. So right now the market dynamics are not very good because of lack of wallet support and app support. So there are still a few things we need to do to see how much dynamic the market happens, because right now the market is just the cost of gas is kind of fixed and it's just going up and down with the cost of liter. But I don't expect it to be very, very volatile, because you cannot speculate on gas. You cannot buy gas now and sell it later. Of course, you could create a smart contract for that. You cannot like invest and buy gas. Gas is just something that it's the current price that you pay for contracts right now. So the only real thing that matters is how much people are willing to pay for the prices, and how many miners are out there waiting for contracts to be there. So I expect contracts to be much cheaper than they are right now in the future, and they are probably going to stay cheap.
Okay, makes sense.
But of course, I cannot predict it because it is a market.
Okay, great. That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Awesome.
No? Okay, anyone? No? Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Brian. I think it's a very wonderful presentation today. And I'm just recording the presentation, so if you allow me to introduce in public, I will ask later whether you can publish on videos.
I would love it. No, please publish it yourself. I would love to see it, and send me the link when it's published.
Thank you very much. And I'll ask you once more, and I would like to share your presentation pitch today with the demo script. Is it okay? Can you share your presentation pitch today?
The PDF.
With the slides? With slide share or something like that.
Look, you can share the. Of course, you can reshare the presentation whoever you want with.
Okay,
the video you can, and if you want, I can send you a PDF of the slides.
Okay,
but I think it's better if you just share the presentation, because the slides are not so self-explanatory without someone.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's a time to we have to finish the time. Thank you very much, Alain. I will see you later. I would like to have some another presentation later. So thank you very much today. Thank you. Yeah, 一応これでアレンさんのプレゼン終わりなんですけども、もしよければこの後15分ぐらいオリジナルのプランにありましたなんだっけな、ニック・ドーソンさんのプレゼンテーションがちょっとブレイクを置いてありますので、もしよろしければ引き続きいらっしゃったら。
Can you leave your contact first, the page on your contact, so that if anyone wants to contact you, they can you leave this slide for a couple of minutes? The contact page.
Okay, after a couple of minutes, we have another presentation with Nick Dawson. He has Wave Fund Ethereum crowdfunding system. I don't know, sure, but from Canada. So if you have time to save a couple minutes, so I would like to share another presentation.
Let me see how can we move this.
よろしければもうちょっと。
Is good?
Yes, and
You want me to make the video?
Can you push the slide a little bit on top? Up. Just move it on top a little. Okay, that's good.
Feel free to send me an email in a month.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Also,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye. 伊藤孫さん。
So we're gonna take a break for 15 minutes
15 minutes?
first until I get hold of the next
ちょっとじゃあ
speaker.
お休みをいただきたいと思います。どうやって帰ってるんですか。
外ですか。
外じゃないです。トイレ。
あ、今ドア開けっぱなしなんでトイレで。あれね、インチキな、ソースの中身がインチキなところがあって、結局そのマイニングして裏では本当はゲスが動いてるはずなんですけれども、Web3.js を使って叩いてるはずなんですけれども、そこの、リモートで動かすところとかそういった仕組みについて何も説明してないから、多分知らない人から見るとなんかすごく簡単に作れるように思っちゃうような気がする。
早すぎるので、ちょっとインチキ臭いなと。
いや、インチキ臭いのはそうなんですよ。ソリディティのソース見たって一番はしょってるので。
もう一回ちょっとよくプレゼンテーションピッチちょっと開いてみて何やってるのか。
あれ見て、もう最後にトランザクションで流さなきゃいけないんですけど、全部トランザクションのソースっていうのは全然見えないような形になっていて、結局アプリケーションあったじゃないですか、画面の、ブラウザで動いてるかどうかわかんない。あそこのところで叩いてるはずとやってることを全然見せてないので、それ自体のソースをコンパイルしてデプロイして、それを動かしてるように見せてるけど、それを動かす、呼び出す、コントラクトを呼び出すところっていうのは全然見せてくれてないので、多分、皆さんそういうところが分かんないと思う。作ったことないと。
なんかこんなに簡単なのみたいに見えちゃうけど、ちょっと怪しいですよね。
作って動かしてる人間には全然全部はしょってるなっていうのは分かるんだけど、作ってないと全然分かんない。
Confirm.
Yes.
What presentation?
Yes, next presentation I expected. Maybe it's time to break. So we start the.
I thought it's a delay.
Yeah. But briefly, I would ask the Nick Dawson with a brief presentation, about 50 minutes. But I'm afraid very early in the morning, as his local time. 9:45 to 12. 12. Okay. If you have time to stay. Yes.
If it's scheduled, I'll stay.
Yes, please join us.
I think that's a good case.
公園やって話してる人がいて、
結構なんか毎年やってて、毎週やってて、心のネタの人もまだ起きてない。
まだ起きてない。だからまだ寝てるでしょ。今だとそう4時でしょ。4時、朝の4時。
Yeah, 4 o'clock in the
あ、来
morning.
たね。起きたみたい。
It's just getting up.
そう、あ、5時だ。
5:45 a.m.
取引所ですか？
あ、オッケー。
Ready? もうちょっと。あと。
マジ？ままじゃないですか？
名前がままですね。
ままです。
まあ、本当に名前当たったらっていうか、
あ
それのなんか、まあ、一応社員と佐藤さんって話なんですけど、
あるなというか。
なんていうか、
でもなんか、もうじゃあもう 2.0 なんですね、時代が気づけて。
まあそうですね。てかまあ1.0を思って、
もう2000確かに。
やってるので、
なんかまたなんかクラシックと独立してからすごいなんかすごい楽しいというか政治なんですよね。政治の時期というか。面白い。なんかそう結構前です。スクリプト書いたことあるんですけど、スクリプトビットバンクってなんか変な影の日本語前に会員さんみたいなのをやってるってことで、なんかスクリプト六本木の方でも強いやつ。あそこが毎週やってる。街も行ったらなんか結構オタクばかり。街がどこですか？
ありますね。2回ぐらい。
結構みんな基本オタクですよね。
まあ、これ教会に来る以上は、大体。
なんかやっぱりそのオタクの方です。なんかその今さ結構ユーザーエクスペリエンスがもうなんか何もやっていいよっていう感じですか？もう要は。
ちょっと触ってみて、さすがにこの状態からやるの無理だろう。
ガスが全部施設のが
ガスはですね、
ガスとあれにしないとか
してないです。
ガスを買うんですか？
買うんですけど、そういったマーケットがないんです。で、一応値段がフロンティアの一応価格を書いてある。
価格にドルとか、イーサとかだとやっぱり2.上がると上がっちゃう。説明が分からない。
それが書いてあるちゃんとサイトがあるんですね。
変えればいいけど、変えるの誰か。
地味に
本番では分からないですけども、自分でテストネットで作る場合には、
アルゴリズムとか最低の意味が
いうアプリケーションのファイルを作って、それで
JavaScript をかければ
作ってやれば自分で設定できるので、
JavaScript のそれPython じゃなくて
認識と聞いて通貨飛んだら聞いてる。ありますよ。
そうですね。ライバリーとか最近やった意味が分かんない。PID を本当に最近まで
あれもすごくよく分かりづらくて、ちょっと使われた方が実用の説明があるのと、あとは
それもやっぱり 2.0 なんですね。もうすでに
サイトで彼らね、初めの頃ガスとかその辺のガスプライスについて話し合ってるところが、そこの、ね、流れでいいとか追っていくと、それがどういうことなのかっていうのが見えてくると思うんですけれども、
先週なんか
要は全員なんですけど、結局
トランザクションを上げました、それに対してエネルギーがかかりますよということをガスが説明する。
ビットコインと連動してるんですけど、イーサリアムってマイニング
戦後的な世界観から、
そのコンパクトの場合、っていうのなんですね。
ビジネスのというのは3.0の世界に生きているかは9の
そもそもマーケットもないし、決まってる今の数値しかないので、それをどうやって、まあ、さっき言ったように、どこで交換して買うのかっていうことに関して、答えにはなってないんですよ。今ないですから。
いや、もういいと思いますよ。なんか、オーガーとかは、誰か聞いてたら、誰が聞いたのあるんですよね。ブックメイキングがあるから、どういうふうに伝えしますか？世界一リフォーマーだけで。どういう、なんか、どういう感じで、どういう分野ですか？
まだ2回目。
その辺も、だから多分、データシートとか、そういう意味では、それが大体見えてくるんですけど、じゃあいくら設定するのかっていうのが、やっぱり実際と
これを使って成功できるほどでかいアイディアを入れて、ちょっとあたふたしちゃう。これを使って、リードを使って、なんか、すげえな、でも、そんな自分で作っちゃう。だからもう、でかい会社があるので。Facebook だって PHP でアパッチで使うじゃない。
元のやつから Git からブランチ作ってやって、自分でやるっていうことができるってやります。
じゃあ、確かにじゃあ、
そういうリースの値段上がってるんですよ。自動車がそれなりしてもう一個自動車買うっていうのはこういうのしか確かにあるな。いや、この間なんかヨーロッパの男の人が自動運転ドローンに10トン以上の行動をかなり広く買えばいいから。そしたらその会社もお金ます。でもやってること同じですよ。Google が車のプラットフォームとか。
確かに、車の会社買いましょう。
買うだけじゃなくて、復活したりとか、中古車で車もね、なんか、為替がドルぐらいで5%ぐらい系列処理サポートしていきたいし、まあ、現地の為替がしないとダメなんですけど、まあ、インフラでもなんかいいよ、まあ、下げてたけですよね。
こういうイーサリアムの世界だったら、本当にハードル3000台時間電話レベルの情報量になってますけど、
今は気にはしてる人がいるぐらい、気にはないぐらいだから、
ると、ある程度してるサービスで、
あれはでも、たくさんの公式通貨の時に、それが、基本的にはドルでっていうか、しかも、国にあるのはドルですよ。で、実際に、もともと、なしの世界は、なんとかなかなかなすごい、そうしなしの世界は通貨があって、それは、この時間が中国間だとは、現在の中国政府からのこういう対策ありますので、で、その投資っていうのは、会社って物理的に会社を作る。まあでも、アフリカってかなり、中国からも。
じゃあお待たせしました。
なるほど。中国の ATM で使うと、ATM から出てくる10枚に半分ぐらいは偽札らしいんですよ。で、現地の人が言ってました。
All right, let me get audio here. I don't seem to be hearing you. Do you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So
thank you for joining us today. Let me just do a quick check. Can you put up your slides?
Yeah.
簡単じゃないですよ。
みんなでも言ってるこの前もちょっと旧正月で帰ってきた人間からっていうのがやっぱりですね。
Or like this is like a browser basically.
それが流通してるのは、まあ、本物と同じように流通して使えるということですね。
まあ、暴れたらダメなんし、指摘されたら、指摘されたら指摘されたら、
銀行にもこう入れてしまえるっていうのは、まあ、偽札業者は儲かるっていう感じ。
入れられるのかどうなのか。
You see that? Or is it,
It is very. I think we should do it on Skype.
on Skype?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go to Skype.
Okay. Now on Skype, because I'm on Linux, I can't screen share. It's kind of a crappy thing on Skype.
Okay. Let me give you a call and then let's try on Skype.
Okay. Okay. Now I don't think I have screen sharing.
You don't have screen share.
Let me see. It says share screens. Ah.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, that looks like it's sharing screens. Okay. Can you see the whole screen, or is it just sharing one screen?
I can see it's like 2 screens.
Okay.
No, it's 1 screen. Okay. With several windows.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Like, how does that look?
Let me. Can you read it?
いや、パスタ、ちょっと、でもまあ、なんとか。
Can you reduce the resolution?
I can try. Yeah, let me just see here. Okay, how does this look?
Let me can you turn off your camera and switch it on again because it didn't update here.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
まあでも、なんか友達とビジネスを始めるときに、株が出てきて、始めるとする。わかんねえな、これ信じられないとかって思うからわざわざできる人は
Is that better or worse?
Can you put a 800 by 600? That would be great. 800 by 600.
とりあえずはゲームで勝負入ってるから。
See if I can get that going. Oh boy.
So,
Here we go.
でも極論どっか紙書いてリストしてくれる。
Okay, and then I'm going to refresh the screen
何が
sharing
これ
again.
が有利かっていうそれを海外の人とやる場合は確かに英語で書いてでも Google ドキュメント入れてみんなで持ってこれ
yeah, yeah,
いいよね
it's good. Sorry, the big screen is going to be. But it's good. It's perfect.
That's fine.
So I will go and switch on the camera so you can see everyone and then introduce yourself.
どうスマート
Thank you, Nick-san. I'm very sorry to wake up so early in the morning.
No problem.
Okay, I have a brief presentation today, about 15 minutes.
なんか100円振り込
So
んで
it's quickly go to the presentations. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, okay, shall we start? Okay, we are ready to do the presentation with Nick. He is famous for musicians, but I will introduce as Wayfound inventor, Wayfound founders. Okay, could you introduce yourself and what you are and what you're doing now? Okay, first. Thank you very much. We shall start.
So hi everybody. I'm Nick, and I've been working on 2 projects with the Ethereum smart contract technology. One is called Wayfund, which is for decentralized crowdfunding. The other is called Boardroom, which is to do with decentralized governance. So both of these projects are completely blockchain-oriented projects to do with smart contracts and kind of cover a breadth of stuff in relation to crowdfunding and governance. So basically, yeah, I'm a musician in Canada, and I've been doing this for about 1.5 years, doing smart contract stuff and doing Ethereum. Basically, Wayfund, I started a little while back as a project that was supposed to be for 1 Bitcoin. So I was just like, here's 1 Bitcoin, like, can you build a crowdfunding platform on Ethereum? So I was like, yes, like, I'll give it a shot. And then that's basically how I got started with doing all this decentralized technology. The idea behind Wayfund is really simple. It allows you to raise money, raise capital, and then turn that capital into digital equity shares immediately and automatically, and issue them back to the account that contributed initially. So equity crowdfunding is probably the simplest way to put it. So this is going to really change the entire dynamic of how we raise capital, because we're giving any small business, any sort of small or medium-sized business, the ability to immediately raise capital and issue equity back to the people who initially were part of the capital raising. This is a big leap forward, I think, for business and for kind of contract technology in general. And the other half of it is, once we've raised all this money and we've raised all these contributions, how do we manage these funds, and how do we use smart contract to manage the funds itself? So this is where Boardroom comes in, the other project that I'm working on. And what Boardroom does is allow you to have governance on smart contract technology that allows you to manage the funds that you've raised. And not only that, but the equity that you've issued to people becomes the voting share weight and becomes the membership definition of the organization. So it allows you to go right from raising capital, turning that into equity, and then going right into governance. So all very, very businessy, all very, very corporate sounding, but potentially we can give this technology to absolutely anybody. So we can give it to a small business owner to raise money for their shop. We can give it to nonprofits. We can give governance and crowdfunding to absolutely every single person on the planet, and do it for 20 cents, basically American. So it's pretty cool, and the realities of it are pretty striking. So today I thought I'd go through, instead of showing slides, I just show you Wayfund. I'll show you the alpha, and then I'll show you Boardroom. And these are both the alpha user interfaces, and I don't know if we want to get right into the smart contracts itself, but I'll just kind of walk through both platforms, and maybe you can get an idea of what both are. Yeah, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts and that sort of stuff. So, okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. Cool. So basically, this is the Wayfund alpha opened up in a browser. Super simple. It just looks like a kind of a normal website. But basically, from this, these are all crowdfunding campaigns. You can see here I've started one called Japanese Startup Fundraise. So basically, it looks very similar to just like Kickstarter or these other crowdfunding websites, but essentially the denominations of the currency are not in US dollars, but they're in Ether. And Wayfund is really simple. It's just one user interface connected to one contract and on Ethereum. And essentially from there, you can do so much. But everything is very simple, and right now this will allow us to do crowdfunds, and then once the crowdfund has completed or the goal has been reached, so here the goal is like 600,000 Ether or 6 million Ether, then it can be paid out to the person who started the campaign, or to the beneficiary. So this is a kind of a really simple interface, just to show what it looks like, and these are the various campaigns, starting a campaign. It's all very similar stuff to what we're kind of used to seeing. And we also have another interesting dynamic here, which is you can create a token or a piece of currency that you issue back when people make contributions. So here you can see I have a token builder. So you build a token, then you can attach it to your campaign, and then every time someone makes a contribution, it'll issue tokens back to the contributor. So this is the kind of dynamic that is so amazing with this technology. So once we've raised funds, say on a crowdfund like this, then we want to go to the governance side. So this is an alpha UI of Boardroom, and Boardroom is the sort of governance technology I was talking about before. And basically, here we have a board with a certain number of members, a certain number of subcommittees, proposals. It's all the kind of standard stuff to do governance. And from this, the funds could be put into this balance, and then funds can be delegated by the board, by the people who raise the money, to certain locations. Like here I'm saying, send funds to the treasury. So the funds can be immediately allocated. So this potentially saves companies billions and billions of dollars in clearing, because they can go right from capital raising to equity issuance to governance, and from governance to clearing transactions. And right now it costs banks billions of dollars to do this. And if they do it in the open with smart contracts and things like this, it can save them an enormous amount of money.
次からなんか Wi-Fi が。
I don't need. Hi. Oh, with that? We are back. Okay. I'll continue to share screens. Okay. Okay. Cool. So yeah, there's a few more things. I'll just end off with what proposals can do, and then we'll take it from there. So proposals in boardroom can not only change, the balance, they send money around, but you can also change the actual structure of governance itself. So you can change, the constitution of the board and change that into other smart contracts and do a bunch of really kind of interesting things. So that's basically the two platforms that I've been working on. Yeah, I'm curious to know what you guys think. If you have any particular questions about either of them, any thoughts on even the user interface or things like that. Yeah, anything come to mind, or
Okay.
I mean, I hope that was clear enough.
Okay, I'll ask. Okay, any questions? Anybody from volunteer? Okay, come on. じゃあ時間がないので、こちらに向かって喋ってください。
One thing question. I'm also working on some like a blockchain idea. And the question is, how much are you using blockchain? For example, you showed like a web page, right? And it seems like, totally like HTTP response. And how much you've done to implement, blockchain side to make a smart contract?
Yeah, so basically, with Wavefund, all of the business logic and all of the crowd funds, so the majority of the data you're seeing there is actually stored on a smart contract.
Everything, or some data is stored in MySQL and some data is stored in blockchain?
Okay, so I'm using no MySQL. There's no servers. There's nothing. It's all what's the Ethereum standard decentralized app kind of design, which is basically a light HTML, JavaScript, CSS UI, right, user interface, and then that's connecting with a smart contract that's published to the Ethereum network. So basically, there's very little to no data storage that isn't decentralized. With Boardroom, I'm actually using IPFS. I don't know if you're familiar with that protocol, but it's a decentralized file storage protocol.
Yeah.
So I'm using IPFS to do other kinds of data storage, like storing JSON files and stuff like that. But all of the actual data is being pulled in from decentralized sources. And the smart contracts do all of the logic and basically underpin the entire kind of integrity of what the UI is showing. With Wavefund, it's a simple smart contract. It's basically, if you remove the comments, it's about 150 lines of code. I mean, you can see it is a very simple smart contract, but the UI kind of there's a lot going on in the UI. So I see what you're saying. You're kind of like it looks like there's a ton of stuff going on, but it's really just smoke and mirrors. All of that's just user interface stuff, and I'm bringing in data from the blockchain and from IPFS, and then I'm just storing it locally. So it feels like you're using a normal interface, and it feels like it's all working really nicely, but it's really all decentralized. And that's like one of the crazy things you want to do is you want to make it feel like you're still on the normal web when you're not. You know, we're not at all. Like everything is decentralized, so that's kind of the way the dynamic works there with data storage, and with the blockchain too. You don't want to store additional data that isn't consensus data, because you know the blockchain is all about making consensus.
Yeah.
It's making state. So you don't want to store, you know, random things that have nothing to do with, you know, keeping state or consensus. You want to store like how much did they raise, you know, how much, anything quantifiable essentially, anything you can financialize. And so with WaveFund, like I store the campaign, I store how much did they raise, who are the contributors, all the account stuff. I store a campaign name, and then I have a registry that stores a hash, which is to a decentralized file storage thing. But anyway, that's all
Okay.
more technical.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Alright, any guys?
Sorry, just one question. Thank you for your significant presentation about decentralized government. I have a question about the crowdfunding. And actually, I'm not a clever guy. I could not understand the feature of the system. But what's the great difference between ordinary traditional crowdfunding and your crowdfunding? What's the benefit for user and some client and some guy who will invest? Thank you.
So this is a question that I get a lot, which is, what's the difference between Kickstarter or these, you know, conventional crowdfunding platforms and something like WaveFund? And there's a few fundamental differences. And the thing is, for the user, it may not look like there's a lot of differences, but for what's going on, there's a ton of differences. So one of them is that Kickstarter has servers, I don't know how many employees, 500 employees, 1,000 employees, people running around, building all these components, marketing, everything. WaveFund is one contract, one UI, there's no servers, there's no backend, there's nothing. It's just a smart contract and a UI. And it does the exact same thing pretty much as what Kickstarter does. So this basically has a huge cost reduction because there's no servers or anything. There's no middle kind of technology. Now, the next thing is, with Kickstarter, because they're not part of a smart contract ecosystem, when funds are raised, they can't be turned back into equity and into tokens that can be immediately traded in things like digital exchanges and all this other stuff. So it basically, we can do fundamentally different things with that capital that Kickstarter can't do, because it's all just locked up in conventional banks and banking systems and so on. Whereas for us, it's in this whole new ecosystem of smart contracts where when funds are raised, they can go to other contracts, they can go to tokens, they can go to ledgers, they can be put into governance. So these are different, the kind of critical differences.
I see. So you can reduce the cost to use kind of the private chain, kind of, and also maybe in the future you can also develop, if you want, you can develop some kind of derivative for the crowdfunding, right?
Yes. Yeah. You can build all those financial instruments around the money that's raised, and you can turn the money that's raised into a token or a ledger, another blockchain, essentially.
I see.
So everything is financialized. Everything can be pulled apart. Everything can be turned into financial instruments.
I see.
So it changes the whole dynamic.
I see. Do you know, another your competitor developed some kind of derivative for crowdfunding to use Ethereum? Do you know another case?
I'm not too aware. Sorry, you were talking about a competitor to.
Yeah, competitor, another guy who developed crowdfunding.
Yeah, I mean,
competitor.
basically all of the conventional crowdfunding systems, they'll try to offer something of the sort that's kind of like that. They'll try to attempt to do what I'm doing, but they're never really doing it, and they're never really fully integrating it with smart contracts.
So yeah, first penguin.
Yeah.
I see. So congratulations for your challenge, and thank you for your answer.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next one, please.
Hey, good morning.
Hi.
After some time, when you have hundreds of outstanding funds open, being raised to various degrees of completion, if you're saying that there's no central server that can go down, but you're storing the details somewhere else with, what if you lost interest and walked away, and would there be anything lost? What would happen to all those open contracts?
So the crazy thing is that if I release WaveFund like next week, which I might, by the way, basically the smart contracts run on their own without anything to do with me. And the user interface is just a way to communicate to that smart contract. And so it will just run as long as the smart contract and the network exist. And basically, the way it works is once the smart contract goes up, every full node in Ethereum stores that smart contract. So everyone has to store the smart contract the way it's designed right now. So pretty much everyone has access to it. Everyone can continue raising capital, and there's very little I have to do to maintain that. There's very little that needs to happen in order for that to be maintained, even if I walk away tomorrow, because all the business logic and everything is still there. All of the accounts are still there. All the contribution metrics and numbers are still being held within the smart contract. So basically, once the contract's up and running, it can just run forever, and until the network dies and we all die.
There's an interface between the people who are donating and the people who are receiving and the smart contract. Are you connected?
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and I go back. All right.
I understand the contracts carry on running on their own and everything's safe, but how can, at that point, could no one, the interface would be missing that allows people to contribute more. So there could be some that are just stuck in a half-funded state. How do people access them afterward? There is some there's an interface somehow showing up.
Oh, well, basically the way I've designed the logic for WaveFund is you have to set a campaign deadline, and if your goal is not met by that deadline, the campaign fails. And then all of the funds are refundable back to the contributors. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I set up the business logic. So if you had a bunch of half campaigns that never got anywhere, the funds are returnable to the initial contributors. So that's within the business logic itself of the contract. As for the user interface, all the user interface is doing is visualizing this contract and this business logic. It can be stored anywhere. It's basically 3 files, an HTML file, CSS file, and JavaScript file. Mm-hmm. And it can be stored anywhere on the internet, and all it does is help visualize that contract and business logic, but it's not the sole gateway or thing you need to use in order to use WaveFund. you can actually just use some kind of smart contract viewer and do all the same sort of donating and the same sort of process just for the smart contract itself. So you can think of these user interfaces as like helpers or visualizers or things to visualize the whole decentralized app. But really, in reality, the business logic carries on, and you can just access a smart contract, in a standard way. You can just send money to it with certain data, and that's it. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. I mean, the data itself, most of it's being stored on the blockchain, and then there's a little bit being stored elsewhere. But essentially, it all just runs on itself. It can just run for itself forever. And the business logic is, you raise money. If you surpass your goal by a certain time, then you can continue to raise money. It'll still keep raising money for you. But once it's paid out, then it stops. So that's basically it.
So someone who didn't know anything about Wayfund could find one of these contracts, examine it, and then complete the contract, contribute the balance, so it finishes without the help of Wayfront, the entity.
So basically, all Wayfund is like a shell of business logic for crowdfunding. To complete balances of crowdfunds, I mean, someone could come along and fill up all of the campaigns on Wayfund. The campaigns themselves are just data storage within the contract itself, and the logic just states like you can contribute, you can refund, you can get paid out.
So that much is readable by someone who knows Ethereum contracts.
Yeah, like you'll be able to look at that contract and look at all the transactions sent to it, and that's all the data stored with it. And then you'll just be able to decipher, okay, this is how many campaigns there are, okay, this is the contributions for each, etc. Essentially, anyone will be able to see that. That's completely out of the open. That's completely transparent on the blockchain itself.
They just wouldn't know who each one is for.
Yeah, like they'd be able to decipher though, given the transaction data, they would be able to actually decipher this person sent this much money to this campaign, this person refunded this failed campaign, this person started that campaign. You actually would be able to decipher.
Not person, but Ether wallet.
Yeah, so it's all accounts. Yeah, it would be accounts, not people. Yeah.
So each crowdfund that gets created has its own contract?
No, in this case, I mean, that's, by the way, a technical possibility. Like, I could build it to be that way, but in this case, it's actually just one smart contract that you can send a certain kind of transaction to it, and then it starts a new campaign. You can send another kind of transaction to it, and then that contributes. You can send another kind of transaction to it, and that pays out the campaign to the beneficiary if it's completed.
Why do it that way? Why have one centralized one? It's kind of like a centralization on a decentralized network. Why not have each one its own?
Right. So, while it is one smart contract, it's one smart contract that's metaphysically in a decentralized virtual world. So, even though it's at one smart contract, it is still very, very decentralized. The reason why I did it this way is because if you do it with multiple smart contracts, what you start getting into is sometimes it costs a lot, well, not a lot more, but it can almost double or triple the amount of money it costs to make those transactions if it has to go through one contract to another, or it has to go through, one contract or another contract. But interestingly enough, the design of what you're talking about is not so far off, and the benefits of doing it all within one smart contract is essentially simplicity, it's efficient, it does the crowdfunding logic all in one place, and it's really hard to cheat. Because essentially, if every crowdfund started their own contract, that could mean that maybe someone, starts a contract and maybe it's a little different than another, and maybe the logic's different, and maybe that's a different thing and that I have to visualize differently. So essentially, doing that sort of system is a little more complex, but certainly possible, and certainly something I would consider later down the road for other editions of Wayfund. Because you're right, sometimes like a campaign may have a lot of different logic in between. So you'd want a lot of different sort of rules and maybe even a completely different contract. So that's a possibility. But right now, one contract is really simple, really easy to understand.
Since they're all the same type of contract.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it might be reassuring to those that start a contract that it can't be changed at all afterward. Right now, you can update the logic of all of them at once.
Yeah, so right now, once Wayfund goes up, that business logic for that crowdfunding platform is up and cannot be altered. But if it were a system where each campaign was its own contract and users were able to create these contracts, then the logic would change per campaign, but that means a whole other set of things and a whole other set of variables that I'd have to look out for. Yeah. So it can get a lot more complex. But right now it's very, very simple.
Okay. It looks like you're waiting for passersby to donate who happen to have Ether on them, and there's not very many. Are you going to wait for them to come about, or there be another way to contribute?
So right now, Wayfund isn't even launched yet. So there's nothing out in the system. You're just seeing a visualization there. But as for Ether and Bitcoin and these sorts of things, basically, I see a lot of people with Ether being first ones, obviously, to contribute to small campaigns. I help campaigns start out really small, and people contribute and contribute their Ether, and it's used for good things. But the way that I see this problem is, this isn't really my problem to solve. That's just going to be the popularity of Ether and Ethereum as it goes along. Once it gets more popular, more mainstream, people start liking it, or there's that one sort of miracle use case that comes up where we all want to use it for that, then there's a lot more Ether in a lot more people's hands, and then it's not so foreign to us anymore. Bitcoin took a long, long time to get to where it's at in order to be digestible by even really technical people. And so we're at the very, very early stages of Ether and Ethereum. But there is some really cool tools that are available, like Shapeshifter, which allows you to move Bitcoin to Ether. Basically, immediately. You can just send it Bitcoin, and then it sends you Ether back to your wallet.
So you're just going to leave it like it is and work on the interesting stuff?
Yeah, I'm going to work on all the interesting stuff. Maybe integrate something like Shapeshifter somehow into the whole picture, so that people can use Bitcoin, and then that opens up another market and another set of users. But yeah, I'm not going to touch conventional currency because the systems and bureaucracy and governance and red tape in place is enormous. And instead of going through all that, I'll just focus, as you said, on all the fun stuff, and and we'll just wait for the world to catch up.
All right, thanks a lot. That's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for everyone. It's time to finish this presentation. I really appreciate your Nick Dawson's presentation. It's very wonderful, and we have a chance to have the very wonderful fruitful discussions. I really appreciate. Thank you very much.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, and I would allow you as you know, I recorded the presentation and discussion today. I would like to show in public by YouTube or something like that. Are you okay?
Yeah, I think that should work. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Nick, if you have a contact so that you can
oh, really?
show some, if people are interested in contacting you, how should they go about it?
Yeah, sure. So let me see here. What could I show? I could write it on a document. Okay. Let me see. So my email is dnickdawson@gmail.com. I don't know if that's. Can you see that?
You need to share your screen for that.
Oh, okay. Screens. Okay. And my Twitter is at I am Nick Dodson. And for Wayfund, the website is wayfund.io. And the Twitter for that is at Wayfund. And for Boardroom, the website is boardroom.to, and at Go Boardroom is the Twitter for that. So that's basically how you would, probably the best ways to reach me, through email or through Twitter. And then if you want to ask more questions about Boardroom or Wayfund, just hit me up on Twitter or those the Wayfund or Boardroom accounts. And that's probably the best place to keep an eye on what's going on. And there should be lots more to come. So yeah, that's basically it, I think.
Okay, it's wonderful.
Contact?
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
This is wonderful. Please ask if you have any questions in person by this email or anything like. Okay. Well, I apologize to get up early in the morning. So have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think I'll head off then.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, no problem.
See you later.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
はい、どうもありがとうございました。以上にしまして。
西海岸ですよ。西海岸なんです
だから東。
トロントって言ってたから。
トロントは東。
東だ。東海岸ですね。14時間ぐらい多分時差があると思います。
あれ、アレックスはどこなのかな。なんかトロント東だとするとブラジルはそのあたりかなと思って。
でも3時間あんまり差がないような気がする。
リオはなんか3時間ちょっとあれでしたけど、はい。Okay, thank you very much. Today it's a wrap up. じゃあこれにて本日は終了いたします。